is, to be, that's possible for us, that maybe we haven't experienced yet. And in all of this, we have to sort out what's true for us. Because sometimes we get inspired by a person and their way. We haven't just realized that the essence within that person is the truth within us, and that we have the power within us to expand upon it, to plant its seeds in our own life. And we take their way, and then we get confused a little bit. We get off track because their way isn't our way. But we adapt. We always adapt back to the truth of ourselves. And I think that's what spirituality and religion can bring us to, is that inner sense of wholeness, that inner sense of potential, that inner sense of oneness with, you could say, what is our value system, our ethical and our moral value system. It brings us back home. So today I want to talk about getting down and definite, and our theme in the next 2 months is we the stewards of life. And so sometimes it's, it can be very interesting when we try to look after ourselves. Let me just stop the sentence there. When we try to look after ourselves, when we've depended on others, when we have lived in a society that kind of creates us to be dependent on a system. It is, isn't it? It's an interesting process to just take care of ourselves, to be the stewards of our own life, to steward ourselves, which means be responsible, be self-reliant, be self-loving and nurturing, self-trusting, listening to who we are inside, rather than the world or the people in the world around us. So Dr. Raymond Hollowell, who wrote a book called Working with the Law, states very clearly it's not about us working the law, working it. Dr. Holmes says there's a power for good in the universe and you can use it. And it's a good place to start because it brings our understanding to a place of deeper connection with this spiritual system that we live in, or the spiritual universe. And we start by going, okay, I'm going to test that one. I'm going to test drive that principle. I'm going to prove that in my life. I'm going to demonstrate and see how that works, if it truly works through me. If life really works through me and doesn't do it to me, how do I step into that role of co-creator? What does that mean? So we start at that level of using the power for good, or using the law. But Dr. Raymond Hollowell says it isn't about working the law, it's about working with the law. There's a big distinction there. Because working with the law for me implies that there's some way I need to be in consciousness, because everything begins in my mind and moves out in my world of form from there. There's an implicit implication that there's something I need to be doing that is going to be in alignment with the nature of the law. That means work. That means commitment. That means perhaps focusing my life in a new way. Or maybe the new way is just inward instead of outward. So a shortcut to the miracle. Okay, so it talks about being, I'm laughing because, as much as I resisted this, boy, wouldn't it be nice? Right? We all think about that. Okay. And I know we can sit here and we can say, I know that, we need to do our part, and we need to work towards creating the good in our life, and we'll get what we deserve, and we need to earn it. These are a lot of the things that go on in our minds. But sometimes when we struggle and we get tired, or we get burnt out, or we get to the place in mind where we go, I don't know why this is happening to me, because I've done this and I've changed that and I've done this and I've changed. Would be really nice just to, could somebody please give me a little insight of how to do it faster? One of my students in my last class, Practical Mysticism, I said, well, what's the big insight you got, over 10 weeks? And she said, it's not about the plan. It's not about the result. It's about the process that I go through. It's the process I go through. Because life itself and the coming together with this God of our understanding, or the truth of who we are, or the nature, our true nature, so that we can really understand and know it and be it in all the glory that we were born to be, is found in the process. It's not found in the result. You know yourself, as powerful as you are, that when you create things in your life and you get the result, what's going on there? You're on to the next thing. Did it really have that much meaning? No. Except, hey, I did it, which is important. But it's the process that shifts and changes you and transforms you. But if only we could have a shortcut to understanding how to create a happy process, a prosperous process, a healthy process, instead of what we sometimes get, which doesn't feel quite as good. Well, the authors of this book, Michael Wren and Elizabeth Arrett, who are both ministers in their 70s now, both retired, said that you've got to be very clear when you create your miracle. Miracle is kind of a biblical word, I think. The miracle. Create the miracle is upon us. And sometimes it seems like it's unattainable. Or sometimes it seems like it's something that happens to us if we be this way. Or that we can't really do anything about preparing for a miracle, but it's bestowed upon us if we're good and just and kind and compassionate. But they suggest that a miracle is really an ordinary. It's not really a miracle. It's an ordinary. And Dr. Holmes would concur with that, the man who wrote the Science of Mind text, because he said, this world in this spiritual universe revolves on the law of cause and effect. There is always a cause, an invisible belief, backed by a sincere, deep emotion, that is the instigator or the initiator of the universal subjective law that just takes this and says yes, and it's called the creative process, the universal creative process, and shifts spirit or the unseen essence and energy of life into a particular form of life. That happens through us. So it really isn't a miracle, only in that perhaps we weren't expecting it to look like that, or maybe we weren't expecting it to be so grand, or maybe we had thought it would be a little more subtle and manageable, but it's a result, it's an effect of the cause we planted in a way that only that infinite mind could know how to produce, not us. Do you not agree that a miracle is not something we can just sit down, write an affirmation, and create like that? Because a miracle is not a goal. It's not an achievement. It's not something you can prepare for it. You can expect the best. This or something greater. I am open to it. You can work to be open to receive the miracle, but you cannot plan the miracle. Because when the miracles happen, it is something that lifts and moves the energy of you to come together knowing that something's greater going on, and it's going on by means of you. You feel connected. You don't always feel connected and expanded when you reach a goal. You feel maybe personally fulfilled, you feel an achievement, but it's more on an intellectual level often. But a miracle is something that instantaneously integrates you, integrates your humanity and your spirituality, your divinity and your humanity, however you want to call it, you and God, you and that sacred place within you, that creative potential, that inspirator. And it has when a miracle happens, there's a certain quality to the feelingness of that is not present when you achieve a goal. Because you can't do a miracle on your own. You need to understand that there's a creative process, that there is an infinite mind, God, you can call it God, whatever you want, that's working on its behalf because you are it. It is working, always saying yes to its creation, to unfold itself in its own wholeness of its expression, because that's its only desire, by means of you and you and you, because we're all unique expressions of the Divine One. Miracles happen when we open to receive this truth about ourselves. So like the bad student that I am, I decide, well, if it's a shortcut, I'm going to look at the index. You know, usually when I was older, or younger, older, yes, and I'm not an avid reader. I didn't really start reading until I entered the ministry. That was the biggest struggle for me. I was just too busy doing life, you know? I'd always go to the end of the book. I'm sorry, you know, it's like, I can't wait. It's like Christmas. I buy people's Christmas presents 6 months before and give them to them. And it costs me twice as much, but, you know, oh well. So I scan the index. Part 1, why are miracles possible? Part 2, where you fit in. Part 3, making miracles. That's where I go. Page 123, because I'm really interested to know, is there anything new in this book, really? Right? There's nothing new, is there? We call ourselves New Thought. There is no new thought. There's only original thinking to us. Thoughts that are in alignment with the qualities and the principles of this spiritual universe. So I open it up here and I think, well, now that I've kind of dishonored the authors, I shoulded myself into starting at the beginning of the chapter. I didn't scan it. And so I'm going to share with you this story that was on the first page of the chapter of how to make miracles. He was 32 years old as he stood on the shores of Lake Michigan, fully intending to throw himself into the lake to commit suicide. 5 years earlier, his oldest child had died at the age of 4. The intervening years had been long and painful. On that gut-wrenching day, he was virtually penniless. He was disgraced. He had failed miserably in his business efforts, and many people he cared about had lost money because of him. And now there was a new baby, but there was no money to feed her or his wife or himself. If he got himself out of the way, he thought at least his wife and baby would be taken care of by the family. He stood there a very long time, thinking. He looked at the rocks and pebbles. He watched the waves. As he did this, his mind began to calm and his thinking began to clear. Then he had a realization, a higher awareness, an inner knowing. It was as though a voice said to him, "You do not belong to yourself. You belong to the universe." As he followed this realization further, he recognized that the voice came from within him and from nowhere else. This led him to make a new commitment, to always endeavor to think for himself. No longer would he be influenced or swayed by the opinions or theories of others. His next question to himself concerned a universal philosophical question. As he had done many times in the past, he explored the possibility of a greater intellect operating in the universe. This time, however, he found his answer was swift and positive. He could look back on his own life experience and recognize that the things that happened to him were not random occurrences. He saw in his life the orderliness of interactive principles that operated without exception. He was profoundly moved by what he recognized as spiritual insights, so much so that he made a sacred commitment to himself and this greater power to spend the rest of his life solving problems that affect everyone on the planet. The man's name was Buckminster Fuller. Fortunately for all of us, he lived for another 56 years, during which time he became recognized as an inventor, architect, engineer, mathematician, poet, and cosmologist. Just breathe. That same potential, that which is inherent in him, is in you. You know, Jesus said, keep your mind stayed on God. That the kingdom is within. Seek the kingdom first. What is this kingdom? In metaphysics, it is that which lives within you, that inherent divine intelligence, that spiritual inheritance that is in your DNA, that is of who you are, that is the full nature of you, because it's the full nature of that which created you. He talks about spiritual insight. I want to share something with you. This week, I had two. You know how we call them sometimes aha moments, when we kind of get hit by the stop sign. It's like, how come I didn't see that before? But man, does this feel good. And then usually the next thought is, I thank God now that this has passed, because I get it, right? Now I can move on to something else, and I won't be disturbed by trying to figure it out. I can move on. And there's that feeling of openness, of expansion. So I had two in a row within 10 minutes. God love me. I don't call them aha moments. I call them raw ha moments. Because they leave you wide open. They leave you vulnerable to truth. Past, present, and of course future, because there is no time and space in creating in the mind of God. And I call them raw ha instead of ah-ha, because unless you can take yourself lightly, you may never get through the raw part, right? You got to stand outside of yourself and witness yourself. So my first raw ha moment, I connected to a word that Reverend Doug Craig often uses. As a man who was 440 pounds, a serious biker dude, in serious trouble. Every time I look at him now, he's, 190 pounds maybe. And I said, wow, you sure lost a lot. He said, I lost nothing. I gained everything. And I didn't lose weight. I released it. I released it. Of course, you can't release the weight in physical form, or the burden that we experience in the physical plane, unless we release the thoughts and the ideas that are keeping us grasping at the core belief that our source for good is outside of ourselves. So I came face to face with this. I'm not losing anything. This is not a loss for me. I am just releasing that which no longer serves me, which means it served me greatly. I bless it, I let it go. But it's still occupying my mental space and my energy and my focus. If I release it, where can I turn that focus and that mental energy and that love for life and that belief and faith in myself and grow that? If this is still here, if there's a wall still here that I'm focused on, then I can't get through it. It's too much struggle. Let me just let it go. Let me put down. Let us put down our issues that we have of ourselves, our judgments with life, the world, the way the systems work. Let us put down our sword. Let us put it down. Let us let the wall go, and let us be vulnerable to what life can be in this next breath by means of my connection with the true nature of who I am. And so in that one moment, that pain of loneliness that I've struggled with all my life, loneliness, it's like poofed. It poofed away, and I call that a miracle. Was it? Did it just happen? Did life just come to me and go, okay, you're ready to hear this, here you go. How would I even recognize it if it didn't come through me? If I had no sense of reference to it, if I had no knowingness that planted seeds to move myself beyond into, as Buckminster Fuller says, to help people solve the problems that affect the world. How would I know? That was my first one. Here's the next one that followed it. Do you ever have the feeling that, people come into your life, you know that saying, they come in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? Okay, this is going to be good. And you think, oh, this one's a lifetime. Right. Right? We do the dance of relationship. All life is a relationship. We do it so that we can know ourselves as love, and know what love is, and know the love of God, and know the nature of ourselves as one in God, as love. At least that's my take on life. So I'm in this relationship. It's called marriage. And it's kind of shifting its form a bit right now. We'll just leave it like that. And I'm thinking, well, we try to understand it. I said, well, if I was really honest, I look and I go, that person wasn't really available. And then I went, I've attracted a lot of people in my life to myself that I thought were there forever that ended up being a reason, or maybe a season, but mostly a reason. And I think, well, they just weren't available. I didn't choose right. It wasn't really, how we do that to ourselves? When everything is in right and divine order. And my raw moment was, when I look back, it's not just about a marriage or a love or a friend, or even if you believe that you pick your parents, It's not just about that. Or it could be a job, a relationship, a job. It's about not that not being right for me by means of not being available. My raha moment was, it's because I attract exactly what I am always. I have not been available. Wow. Did that bring up emotion? We can look at ourselves one way, and yet the truth of us is so much more profound than that. And when we go into the business of making miracles consciously, which means going into the business of being a co-creator in our life and working with these spiritual principles, and knowing that everything is in divine order, and that there is only unification of the one mind, the one life, and we are of that, and everything comes out of that, as we set our consciousness to that belief, and we do everything we can to prepare for the miracle and expect the best of this miracle, but not plan for it. If we know the what, that's ours, that's our job. It's the what. It's to prepare the way, it's the what. It's not the how or the when. That, my friends, is the mystery. Can we live that way? If we can live in that mystery, we can consciously create what we would normally term a miracle in our life all the time. It is the awareness, the connectivity, the feelingness, and the knowingness of the truth of who we are as it is acted upon and expressed in our life by our own set of values and our own truth that creates a feeling of a miracle. So these fine folks say there's a couple of things that you have to do when you're creating a miracle if you want the shortcut. Okay? And here they are. Get clear. Not almost clear. Not a little bit clearer than I was before. Because anything that you are will be, as you will find out if your eyes are open, a mirror correspondingly to that which you put out, you get back. So get clear, because you are the only thinker in your world. And the only communication with the power and the intelligence that makes your miracles happen is through your thinking. So you got to get clear. And don't be worried that if you pick this, you give up that. I did that. Didn't want to choose. I wanted it all. But then I never believed I could have it all, so where was I? Right? Have you ever been on that cycle? Have you ever have let go of your dream or your vision or this miracle that you want to call forward because you were afraid you wouldn't get it, so you didn't try? I've been there. Yeah. But this is a count-onable, immutable law that works in this universe. It's a system. It works the same for everybody. It's impersonal. It takes the impress of our creative thought and our emotion, and it reproduces it. We have a partner. We don't have to do this alone. We are co-creators. This is revolutionary. I was going to say revelationary, and I guess that's too. This is a miracle. Not really. So, once we get clear, we need to project ourselves to the completion of this miracle. Not by trying to figure out the how, do not be deterred down that yellow brick road, but by the feelingness and the qualities of your life once you have it. What is the quality? Am I more open? Am I more loving? Am I more observant? Am I more grateful? What's the feelingness? And project, because the subconscious mind, which is the creative part of our mind or our brain, does not know the difference between fact, what is really happening in the moment, and our imagination. So go for it. We use our imagination all the time anyway, so why not use it in the direction of our miracle? So getting clear and backing it by the feelingness and the qualities of the completion of already having it is the first step. The second is expect the best, do not settle for second best. Because sure enough, the universe or the law of mind will give you back exactly what you believe and what you accept. Not about the miracle, but about who you are right now. You cannot put your mind into the feelingness of completion of that which you can imagine consciously and subconsciously not believe in yourself or your capacity to actually experience it in real time. Because one will work against the other. One will neutralize the other. The third is let go of fear. Not back away, I've already said this, from what you want because you are afraid you might not get it. Did you know you don't need 100% faith to create a miracle? You need 51%. Number 4, open our minds to all possibilities. And that means, folks, spiritual practice. Number 5 is see yourself the way you want to be. Number 6, I love this one. Keep the power, don't talk about it. The integrity of the relationship between you and spirit must be one of respect. It must not be violated. So here's what happens. We get a great idea. We start attracting evidence that our idea is a good idea. We're so excited about this, we need to share it. Guilty. Guilty, guilty. But you know what I'm really guilty of? I'm really guilty of somewhere deep in the law of my being, of believing that I'm really not worthy of getting it. And this is one of the things that I noticed I did in my life to sabotage the miracle. Because the miracle is a creative process. It works. When I talk to people, I invite their response. And their response isn't naturally in alignment with my way of thinking and my desire. It comes from their perspective and their needs. So what happens? The energy, and we call it in metaphysics the spiritual prototype that is being born, that in the world of the realm of the abstract or the absolute or God, is being perfectly formed because it knows how to do this. And then all of a sudden it kind of gets a shot in the side and an elbow in the ribs, and it loses its breath because our mind and our consciousness starts to be attracted away from this truth, this feeling, this knowing, and it jumps over here to really an experience that is affirming an old pattern, a deep pattern, or a subconscious belief that I am not worthy. So who do you attract? If you talk about it, it's okay, but who are you talking to about it? Better you should talk to God about it. Right? Better you should go inside and keep affirming and keep your focus on that creative process. And keep your faith and build your faith than be distracted by the opinion of another, who for all intents and purposes truly does have your well-being at heart, but can't get themselves and their own needs out of the picture. Okay? That is a good one. The 7th is do what needs to be done by you, and the 8th is spiritual practice. Spirit itself is synergistically expanded and multiplied when we allow ourselves to operate generously and unselfishly in whatever we're doing. But the reverse is also true. When and where we block the flow of spirit, that results in also having that place expanded and multiplied in our life. Because the same law of mind in action in both situations is operating. So I guess the question to leave you with is, what miracle are you creating right now in your life? Not what do you want, but what miracle is being created in your life right now by means of you that will help you to know the truth of your own nature and let it be expressed. So yours is to get ready, because not always are we ready for the miracles when they come. And we can tell that by knowing that, or by, in retrospect, by seeing that we didn't observe that they actually happened and that was the miracle, because we were looking for something else. But maybe we weren't just ready. We weren't ready. So our job as co-creators is to prepare the way. It is to expect the best and not to plan, to keep our nose out of the where, the when, and the how, and to keep our mind fastly stayed on the what, and the feelingness, the expansiveness, the goodness and the glory of the miracle that is absolutely within each of us, everywhere, the same as a potential ability. Buckminster Fuller is probably best known today for his invention of what is called the geodesic dome. This is the lightest, strongest, and most cost-effective structure ever devised. Now, incredibly, the larger the dome, the more proportionately stronger and lighter it becomes. There is still another amazing aspect of this incredible invention. Buckminster Fuller actually saw the basic structure of the geodesic dome in the pebbles on the shores of Lake Michigan as he stood there pondering suicide. That is something wonderful to take away, because that says that that miracle is right where you are. If you have eyes to see and listen with open ears and a willingness to know the truth of who you are and express that. The other wonderful thing in here is, incredibly, the larger the dome, the more proportionally stronger and lighter it becomes. Don't think small. The larger your miracle, the proportionally stronger and lighter it becomes. So what miracle? Not do you want to create, but are you creating today? I would say it's the miracle of your existence, because your value is essence-based. It is you. It is you. It is me. It is humanity. And so it is.
So it is.